Welcome back. Let's have a quick recap of what interrupts are. So, as you know, we have our microcontrollers that want to communicate with ARM processor to get interrupts, to get some callbacks when we have some certain events. So we're gonna use, of course, make use of the NVIC, that is our nested vector table that actually handles all the priorities. You can configure all the priorities and the different interrupts we want to have. So what we're gonna do in our API is basically set up the interrupt, enabling the interrupt, set up the priority, set up the interrupt, overriding our handler. So of course, when we do have a notification about an interrupt, we want to execute some code, some piece of code, and then we're gonna do this in the handler. And of course, we're gonna override the default handler to implement our callback. So we're gonna take exactly the same code we used the last time, converting it in interrupt mode. Here was the code we coded last time, as I said, and we're gonna take most of this code. So here we enabled and configured the peripheral. Here we configured UART to peripheral, and as I said, in MSP.c we have how UART MSP init. This is for low level initialization. So this was for the high level initialization, this is for the low level one. And here we need to do some really important configuration. So we're gonna we need to enable the IRQ enable the IRQ and set up the priority. So as you know, to communicate with the processor, we need to configure the priority that will be configured in the NVIC. So here we're gonna do that, and for this thing we're also gonna use some APIs. So just type how, then the name, in this case NVIC, as simple as that. Then we need first to set the priority, and here it is. So we need to pass the IRQ, the priority and the sub-priority. So let's check out this API. As you know, it needs the hierarchy type. If you don't know the hierarchy type, just click here, F3 again. Yes. Okay, let's close this. Let's look for USART. So if you look for USART2, you will find this thing. So this is the hierarchy number of USART2. So it's pretty simple. So if you want to enable, let's say, the timer 2, so this is the hierarchy number for timer 2 that we can use right here and pass it here. For the priority, let's use like 5. So if you don't know what value to configure, just check out this API, and here you see that these values range from 0 up to 15. So don't get confused. If it is 0, it has a higher priority. So this is the other way around. So if 0 is the highest priority and 15 is the lowest one. So if you use 5 is quite a high priority, then we need to enable this hierarchy number. So just type again NVIC and enable IRQ. Yeah. So just pass again this IRQ and we are done. So this was step number 1, to set up the priority and enable the IRQ number. This is needed. Then we can actually, in the it.c, we need to write the function that will be called when the interrupt would fire. So let's go back. Let's go here in the startup file and let's look for USART. I'll explain what I'm doing in a second. So here you see. So in the startup file you'll find all the IRQ handlers, and as you see, if you just look at the next reference, as you see, it is a weak function. So it means that we can override this function. So if you don't know, you can just go here on the top. You also find description. Any function with the same name will be overwritten. So just go back to it.c and let's override this function. Just write like this and what we're doing is override the arc handler to do what we want to do. First thing we're gonna do is to call the USART arc handler. So just type hull USART IARCO handler. So this is needed every time you want to configure peripheral. And as you see here already written extern, so what you're gonna do is just go back here, -c, and extern this variable. So that is also available in this file. Need this handler in this file. We're gonna use extern here, and then we can pass the address of the structure here, right here, and then we are done. Because we don't want to execute further code, we're just gonna call the default handler like so. Then let's go back here. Wait a second. Yeah, of course you also need to include main.c, main.h, so that we also have all our imports that we have here in main.h. That is this file that is needed here because we're using some. Let's go back to main.c, and then we just need to do the last step, that is to call the hull user transmit with interrupts. So we're gonna use exactly the same thing we wrote last time. So just press Ctrl and space. Here you just need to select interrupt. So we also have DMA, but I'm not gonna explain this in this lecture. Just type it, and as you see we have one parameter less. That is, we don't have the hull max delay because we don't need it, and the rest is exactly the same. So just use the code we used last time. Let's test this. Let's compile and check if there are some errors. Yeah, we do have some errors here. Let's check. Redefinition of, okay, I already wrote it here. Okay, so leave it here like so. You maybe don't have done the same mistake. We have another error. Let's see. There are too few arguments. Let's see what are the rest of the arguments. We also need to mention the size. Maybe we didn't mention the size, just use the len here. Let's flash the code. Let's see. Random as me. So I already done all the setup. You know how to do it, and it is indeed working. So we're getting our message.